The African sun hung high, casting long shadows across the dusty grounds as Harper West stepped out of her rugged, dusty Jeep. Her skin was sun-kissed to a deeper shade, and her comfortable hiking pants and simple t-shirt were evidence of her long journey through the savannah. A wide-brimmed hat, though worn and slightly battered, shielded her eyes from the blinding light. She took a deep breath, absorbing the earthy scent mingled with a hint of acacia blooms. As she approached the remote, luxurious safari lodge, Harper couldn't help but notice the glances sliding her way. The lodge was a haven of sophistication, exuding a polished aura from the meticulously maintained poolside to the softly tinkling pitchers of iced tea in guests' hands. Her contrasting appearance seemed to disrupt the tranquil, elite setting. She moved with purpose, conscious of the understated scrutiny from both guests and staff. At the heart of this watchful scene stood Marcus, the head safari guide. His sun-bleached hair and tailored khakis matched his commanding presence. Catching sight of Harper, he swiftly assumed she was a new, low-ranking employee. With a flicker of distaste, he ordered her, "Hey, take those bags there, make yourself useful." His eyes trailed over her sunburn with a smirk. "Try not to mess up your lovely tan while you're at it." Harper met his eyes briefly, a half-smile gracing her lips. "Of course, I'll take care of it," she replied with a calm, even tone. Without another word, she headed toward the main building, leaving Marcus and the pile of luggage behind. The clamor of daily lodge life faded behind her, a quiet smile lingering as she crossed the threshold into what lay ahead. As Harper crossed the threshold of the vast entrance hall, the ambient chatter and lazy clinks of glasses faded, replaced by the direct purpose of her steps on the polished stone floor. Inside the lodge, the light filtered through high windows, casting delicate patterns on the walls and illuminating the understated elegance of the surroundings. The place exuded exclusivity at every corner, from the exquisitely arranged local artifacts to the grandiose staircases that curled like sinuous serpents, disappearing toward private quarters. With the unfamiliar responsibility of more than just observing, Harper immediately sensed the quiet potential held in this place and its people. Behind the scenes, the staff moved with mechanical efficiency, barely acknowledging the sunburned woman weaving through them with the quiet confidence of someone who knew precisely where she was headed. Pausing briefly by one of the mahogany tables, Harper took a moment to reorient herself, adjusting her path toward the HR office. Their faces familiar to her from email correspondences and video calls, the HR manager, Sarah, awaited her arrival, her attention shifting upwards toward Harper when she entered the intimate, tastefully furnished room. "Harper!" Sarah exclaimed, standing with a genuine smile and extending her hand warmly. Her business formal attire mirrored the polished elegance of the lodge itself, and her presence exuded professionalism. "We've been eagerly waiting for you to start. It's wonderful to finally meet you in person." "Likewise, Sarah," Harper replied, her tone polite but with an edge of genuine warmth. The handshake was firm, their joined hands a small symbol of the transition that was about to take place. "We've prepared everything for you," Sarah said, gesturing to a meticulously organized folder lying atop her desk, filled with documents and orientation plans. Harper appreciated the organization, showing her growing excitement in a slight smile. Settling herself into the leather-bound chair opposite Sarah, Harper listened carefully as the manager outlined the immediate agenda. It felt unexpectedly invigorating to unearth ground plans, acknowledging her new role far beyond anything she'd encountered before. Sarah continued, eyes bright with enthusiasm, "Everyone is thrilled to have you on board. The improvements you've hinted at fit perfectly with our vision for the lodge, and your past work speaks volumes." Harper nodded, simultaneously humble and focused. The time for curiosity and observation was over, entering decisively into the exciting minutiae of her new responsibilities. Together they pored over staffing changes, conservation initiatives, and guest relations, each line item a promise of the future she was tasked with bringing to fruition. Meanwhile, beyond the closed doors of HR, Marcus's voice echoed through the lounge as he nonchalantly recounted his meeting with the newbie. His air of confidence and bravado was an ambient soundtrack underpinning the smooth flow of the lodge's daily operations. He leaned against the concierge desk, his gestures animated as he regaled an audience of several staff members with tales of how he had sorted out the morning's arrival. "Yeah, she was just standing there, looking lost," Marcus boasted, "so I made sure she knew where to start. Gotta keep things in line, especially if they're already sunburned on day one." His laughter was echoed by a few, a camaraderie formed through shared humor at someone else's presumed expense. A few workers exchanged glances, caught by the vagueness and confidence with which Marcus spoke. Some were familiar enough with lodge gossip to wonder aloud if this newbie was the one they'd been expecting, the enigmatic figure said to bring revitalizing changes to the operations. Speculation danced among them like sparks from a campfire under the starlit African sky. Sarah, busy confirming details for Harper's introduction, was oblivious to the peripheral gossip outside. The HR office's closed door kept them in their own universe of purposeful silence, underscored by Harper's calm attentiveness. There was a distinct satisfaction in knowing the truth behind this curtain of misconceptions. The anticipation of Marcus learning exactly who he'd confronted fueled Harper's endurance. At last, sealing their discussions with satisfied nods and tightly bound plans, Sarah looked up with a smile, excitement fueling her words. "Let's head out for the announcement, shall we? We're ready for everyone to meet you, officially." Stepping from the office into the bustling logistics of lodge life, Harper emerged with her usually mellow posture squared. There was a grounding strength in her stride now. As Sarah accompanied her toward the main lounge, Harper absorbed the murmurs and curious glances, the guests and staff alike halting in their conversations, subtly mirroring an imminent revelation. Leading Harper through to the gathering space where staff and a few returning guests waited out of curiosity, Sarah provided subtle reassurance in how naturally the staff seemed to align behind their new leader. The satisfaction of witnessing such an anticipatory calm wash over the room bolstered Harper's resolve. She was ready. In a harmonious clearing of throats and clattering of teacups settling on fragile saucers, the attention of all present shifted to the center of the room. With an unobtrusive nod from Sarah, who introduced her to the entire staff and assembled throng, Harper prepared herself to face the audience, those who would be her allies. And at the periphery, just entering the announcement space, finally spotting Harper amidst talks of her arrival, Marcus's confident bravado faltered, his confident smirk replaced by a mask of stunned disbelief. The staff noticed his shift in demeanor, some offering sidelong glances as they awaited what Harper would say, bursting with curiosity about how she'd handle the situation. Harper's consciousness seamlessly transitioned, focusing on the eager faces before her, resonantly echoing the integrity of her mission. The layers of preparation culminated within that electrifying moment. All that had preceded was practice leading to this singular introduction, the blooming of potential she, Harper West, would nurture into reality. As Harper stood at the front of the spacious lounge, she felt a wave of emotion sweep through the room. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with the aromatic essence of Africa, a rich tapestry of earthy tones and distant floral notes that enveloped the gathered crowd. Her presence commanded immediate attention, the natural authority emanating from her dispelling any earlier doubts. The soft hum that had pervaded the room moments ago quieted to a respectfully attentive silence. Harper looked out over the faces turned toward her, an assembly pitched perfectly between curiosity and professional decorum. Within this picturesque setting, the walls doubled as windows to a view of rolling savannas that stretched into the horizon, whispering reminders of the majestic world outside. The HR manager, Sarah, introduced Harper with a respectful nod, her voice ringing with pride. "Ladies and gentlemen, staff, and valued guests, it is my pleasure to introduce Harper West, the new owner and managing director of our esteemed lodge. Harper brings with her a wealth of experience and fresh perspective that will guide us into an era of unparalleled excellence." Harper stepped forward, her eyes briefly catching the flustered spectacle of Marcus standing awkwardly to the side, his earlier bravado all but evaporated. His expression was a portrait of disbelief, as if the scene before him defied logic. His earlier confidence had unraveled, exposing a vulnerability that had been cloaked in habitual arrogance. The room sensed Marcus's discomfort, their attention briefly fractured as some exchanged knowing glances. The collective realization of his earlier misstep crested like a quiet wave. Standing at the heart of this revelation, Harper embodied serene composure. "Thank you, Sarah." Harper's voice was clear, reaching every corner of the room with gentle authority. "I'm honored to be here with each of you. Our lodge has a proud history, one rooted deeply in this pristine land and the outstanding team it takes to honor this environment." Pausing, she allowed her words to settle, meeting the attentive gazes with sincerity. There was no pretense, only the truth. Her dedication was as much about the people gathered as it was about the wildlife and landscapes beyond these walls. "In my career," Harper continued, "I've had the privilege of working alongside some of the most committed professionals in conservation and ecotourism. For those who don't know, I've managed wildlife sanctuaries across Africa and spearheaded ecotourism initiatives that improved industry practices significantly." Her words struck with calculated effect. The tale of her extensive involvement and notable accolades wove a narrative of expertise and genuine commitment, aligning her seamlessly with the mission of the lodge. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, the disconnect between his earlier dismissiveness and the reality of the present sinking further into his composure. "As we move forward," Harper announced, "we'll aim not only to enhance visitor experiences but to further our contributions to wildlife conservation and local community partnerships. I believe passionately in collaboration, bringing out the best in our team and the magnificent ecosystems we steward." The room was quiet, captivated, and then a soft swell of nodding heads and murmured agreements rippled through the gathering. Harper's vision and clear passion had ignited something refocused, filling the space with earnest intent. Observing Marcus's silent turmoil from the corner of her eye, Harper gracefully acknowledged both his past actions and the room's expectations with renewed determination. Her narrative was not one of reprimand but of holistic inclusion. There was a grandeur to her leadership that dared to envision unity, not division. Still, many were keenly aware of the unsaid words between the lines of her speech, the unspoken acknowledgement of Marcus's earlier folly lingering as a lesson veiled in humility. The HR manager punctuated the gathering with praise for Harper's strategy and reaffirmed the lodge's commitment to ongoing excellence under her stewardship. Attention returned with renewed vigor to Harper as she resumed her concluding remarks. "I'm looking forward to getting to know each of you," Harper continued warmly, "learning from your ideas and building on your successes. We have all the ingredients for an exciting future, and together, we'll create a legacy of which we can all be proud." With her closing words, the mood shifted palpably, from anticipation to palpable inspiration, collective agreement, and fresh resolve basking in the promise of shared endeavor. As the applause subsided, staff members began to organize into small knots of conversation, discussions now fueled by hope rather than hearsay. Gratitude, excitement, and even relief peppered the exchanges, punctuating the room with a congenial atmosphere. In this tide of change and renewed ambition, Harper moved gracefully among her team, shaking hands and listening intently, building alliances one sincere interaction at a time. Eyebrows were raised, and glances exchanged as Marcus waded through the aftermath, remnants of his earlier confidence now repurposed into quiet contemplation. Those who had laughed alongside him now seemed unwilling to meet his eye, the dynamic shifting not in retribution, but guided by the sharper, clearer light Harper brought with her. Throughout the afternoon, Harper's presence continued to manifest both gently transformative and profoundly decisive. Decisions were made, visions were shared, and the overlapping senses of unity and empowerment filled both shaded verandas and dusty paths with images of progress to come. The powerful pull of Harper's plans began crystallizing into actionable steps, tangible against the picturesque backdrop of Africa's vast beauty. Here, in the convergence of culture, conservation, and commerce, she stood resolute, a beacon of change in a world ripe with potential, increasingly palpable in every step she took. Such a beginning was no mere introduction, it was a confidently taken step into the expansive horizon that awaited, with dust lifted at her heels and the silhouette of a lodge transformed in the making. As Harper navigated through the sun-drenched lodge, she maintained an air of approachable leadership that welcomed conversation and fostered trust. Her composed demeanor attracted staff and guests seeking to catch even a glimpse of the woman they now understood would shape their collective future. Her sunburn had faded to a warm glow, symbolic, it seemed, of her rising influence. Conversations shifted from quiet whispers to more open dialogues, the initial shock of her introduction giving way to admiration and hope. Harper engaged seamlessly, not just as a leader but as an equal, attentive to the nuances of what the lodge could become under new guidance. Back at the main meeting area, a presentation unfolded to highlight Harper's considerable achievements and credentials. A senior conservation expert, James, took to the floor, briefly outlining Harper's past endeavors. Each anecdote was an echo of her dedication and foresight. Under her previous care, vast wildlife reserves had flourished, both in preserving habitats and in deepening the passion for ecotourism within local communities. Her accolades were not mere testaments to personal achievement, but bridges of sustainability, uniting people with nature meaningfully. As most of you know by now, James said, Harper has a track record that's second to none. Besides leading a sanctuary that became a model for ecotourism worldwide, she implemented programs that have driven enough awareness to result in tangible conservation efforts across borders, efforts that define the very essence of what we here strive for. The gravity of Harper's resume struck a chord within the room, reshaping the staff's understanding of her motivations and capabilities. The simplicity of her values entwined with profound impact painted a vivid picture against the rich landscape of the lodge. From her posture and the gentle resolve with which she listened, Harper's character became luminous. It was leadership defined by humility, by an inherent belief that appearances should never overshadow competence or kindness. Her values resonated with the truth and power of those who lead not by dominance, but by empowering others. Soon after, as discussions naturally devolved into smaller groups, a sense of shared purpose permeated the lodge. Harper moved among her colleagues, who were now eager to contribute to a dialogue defined by collaboration and innovation. Joanne, an experienced guide who had witnessed the lodge's ebb and flow over many seasons, ventured to approach Harper. "It's refreshing," she began, her voice lifting with an optimistic cadence, "to have someone who doesn't just understand the logistics and market of ecotourism, but who also genuinely listens and appreciates the nuances of each role here." Harper responded with a genuine smile, "Thank you, Joanne. I'm a firm believer that it's the collective ability and dedication of a team that achieves true success. Together, we can create something enduring, enhancing both our guests' experiences and our environmental commitment." The vision she shared focused on a seamless blend of luxury and ecology, aimed at educating guests while preserving the wilderness they traveled so far to admire. Harper emphasized how the lodge should feel symbiotic with the land, an integral part of the vast ecosystem they were privileged to inhabit. As word continued to spread, others sought to contribute their insights, their concerns, validating the effect Harper already visibly had in such a short period. The openness in discussions helped assuage any reservations, forging an environment bursting with potential. The undertone of transformation throbbing actively throughout the day soon created tangible momentum. Meetings spilled over into casual conversations, the foundation of a rejuvenated community rapidly taking shape. In an afternoon team gathering specifically for staff, Harper addressed the peculiarities of her initial appearance, the sunburn, the practicality of her clothing, and those assembled received it not as an excuse, but as a rallying point for discussions on adaptation and observation. A quick laugh emerged when Harper quipped, "While I don't encourage showing up as sunburned as I did, remember, the environment teaches us too." Perspectives change when viewed through the lens of active participation within the elements, an insight I intend to carry forward. Her honesty and humor struck a resonant note, reminding those present of the broader principles they shared. The unofficial motto, "Always expect the unexpected," echoed throughout their meeting space with new layers of meaning that the entire team embraced with increasing camaraderie. Further elucidating the reasoning behind her appearance, Harper revealed how her sunburn came from joining rangers on an early morning anti-poaching patrol. Engaging in ground-level work ensured she better understood the dynamics her role would support. Her pragmatic decision to prioritize experiencing firsthand over glossy first impressions left a lasting impression on the gathered team. Concluding the meeting, Harper provided clear, confident instructions for the immediate steps they would embark upon together. Her approach was characterized by inclusive leadership, ensuring everyone could envision their part in this evolving narrative. Walking amidst the newfound energy that buzzed like a softly vibrating hum across the lodge, Harper saw employees infused with vigor, eyes alight with promise. Meanwhile, guests drifted closer, the swing into change piquing their curiosity anew. This day stood out as an emblem of lasting transformation, a visible ripple within an enduring legacy of harmony with place and people. The lodge, with Harper at its helm, was poised to be a sanctuary thrumming with symbiotic potential, naturally aligning itself under the brilliance of African skies, a testament to what inspired leadership could accomplish. Harper's impact radiated through every connection made, and would echo long after the day's sun had set over the savannah's embracing horizon. As the golden rays of the afternoon sun bathed the lodge in a warm light, casting long shadows that danced upon the terrain, Harper felt the completion of her first day's tasks bringing a profound sense of achievement. Her presence had already begun to cultivate a visible transformation within the ever-growing network of employees and guests alike. The vibrant energy of earlier gatherings lingered palpably in the air, each minute tick ushering the lodge further into an exciting era of rejuvenation. Change was a potent gust swirling through rooms and verandas, stirring conversations, friendships, and aspirations. However, not all embraced it so readily. At the heart of this ebb and flow stood Marcus, whose earlier certainty had shattered like mist under the sun's relentless gaze. Persistent aftershocks of realization had left his confidence teetering upon a precarious precipice, his composure now a tightrope walk between defiant stoicism and the gnawing discomfort of having misjudged the situation. His bravado had always been his armor, a construct to bolster his influence among the staff. Yet, after witnessing firsthand Harper's capacity for inspiring change, Marcus mulled over the destructive force of misapplied hubris. It was a revelation reflected in candid whispers and furtive glances that followed his path, reminders of his misstep and the necessity for humility. This introspection did not escape Harper, whose empathetic awareness was as much her tool as figures and statistics. Catching Marcus in a quieter moment by the periphery of a shaded terrace, Harper approached with a professional poise seasoned by the nuances of astute leadership. Marcus straightened as she neared, the reflexive hardened lines of his demeanor softening beneath the steady imploring of her gaze. His pride contested the words of apology he knew should come, their delivery suddenly fragile in the presence of someone who exerted such quiet strength. "Marcus," Harper began, her tone devoid of accusatory undertones. "I recognize how challenging change can be, especially with shifted roles and responsibilities. I've seen how pivotal you can be to this team and I believe your experience is invaluable." Caught off guard by the sincerity of her words, Marcus met her eyes, the fleeting vulnerability therein unburdened by judgment. It conjured a resolve from deep within him, the kind of introspective clarity he'd been grasping for since Harper's introduction. I appreciate that, Harper," he replied, the formality slipping away. "I may not have started on the right foot, but I'd like to contribute to the direction you're steering us." Harper nodded, a smile, brief but genuine, flashing across her face. "Together, we can create something extraordinary," she assured him. "And from what I've heard about your skills on the ground, we'll need leaders like you to guide us through the terrain." As Marcus accepted the olive branch she extended, the magnitude of respect shifted, not through the weight of authority, but through realized potential, and a newfound respect reserved for those who sought to elevate beyond past faults. That evening, Sarah joined Harper on a gentle stroll across the lodge grounds, as the sun began to soften into twilight. Overcome with appreciation for moments both significant and serene, their conversation wove through topics both pragmatic and hopeful. "All signs point to a promising beginning," Sarah confided. "There's a vigor about today that's echoing through the lodge. It's hard not to feel invigorated by what's ahead." Harper inhaled the crisp, evening breeze ingrained with the age-old secrets of nature. "It's the people, their collective passion," Harper concluded thoughtfully. "I believe in them, and what we can accomplish together." Their walk continued against the backdrop of an African sunset, wild landscape evolving through colors so rich they transcended words, a mournful spectrum of velvety indigo and opulent gold, a moment Harper knew encapsulated the promise of tomorrow. Later, retreating to the sanctuary of her personal quarters, a room tastefully adorned with echoes of both tradition and modernity, Harper found Galia waiting by the window. Galia, an operative who had served as a liaison during her initial visits, greeted her with a gentle nod. "The lodge is different already," Galia noted as Harper settled beside him. "The staff talk, new ideas are brewing every moment." Harper exhaled gradually. As civilizations rise, it's the relentless elements shaping them, demanding resilience and courage. "Yes," Galia agreed, reflecting on the paths yet to unfold. "And you, yourself, Harper, have undoubtedly bonded them together." Their conversation mingled with the night sounds, rustling grass, the distant call of wildlife singing under starlit canvases. Here, Harper felt resolute, intent upon navigating through complexities of leadership and ecology, a narrative woven by both intellect and heart. Each decision built through the lens of conservation echoed throughout the day bore weight, a commitment to future-proof the delicate threading of culture atop an ancient tapestry resilient in its fragility. The following morning, the lodge awoke with Harper continuing to make rounds, her actions deeply entrenched in mutual respect and elevated purpose. Staff engaged confidently, the ever-rippling energy urged them forward, ceaseless in its rhythm. Not far from where she had first faced dismissal, the same guests now nodded affably, acknowledging the tranquil command exuding from Harper's presence, forever shifting the perception held within these surroundings. She paused, allowing a moment of quiet contemplation as her journey of guided footsteps resumed, each step both grounded in intention and lifted by the collaborative vision uniting those she led. Amidst this dynamic reality crafted from understanding and bolstered by trust, Harper West gazed out over the lodge, breathing in the layered possibilities just beyond the horizon, ready to guide her team toward an extraordinary future crafted collectively under African skies.